Jon Logan, welcome to the Bitcoin Source. Can we kick things off by having you introduce yourself to the audience, to the world?
Sure, man. Thanks for having me. Great to be here. Jon Logan, public servant, enthusiast, Bitcoin enthusiast, economic justice enthusiast. Just happy to be here and have a conversation with you. Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, much appreciated, John. And, we usually start off on this show by asking people, like, how did they source their Bitcoin knowledge, whether it was books, courses, or even people in the Bitcoin ecosystem that might have inspired you. So could you give people, your answer to what possibly might have, inspired you to source your Bitcoin knowledge?
Yeah, man. My knowledge came from, first off, it came from listening to people who I thought and who I believed who were respected people, patient people, in the Bitcoin space, as we like to say. But after I started getting references to books, then I just dove into books and I started reading, because it allowed me to move at my own pace. It allowed me to go, after I took notes, right? I would listen, take notes on paper. Literally, I sat and I listened to folks the like of, Lamar, Big Mar, and the Black Bitcoin billionaire, and all the people, Nigel Roberts, all the people in that educational space. And I sat and I listened, and I would listen for hours, and I would just take notes on pad. And after that, I would get the references and I would read books, and then I would come back and listen some more. And then I would just keep listening more and read some more. It allowed me to move at my own pace, and then allowed me, once I had enough knowledge, to ask the right questions, to be able to speak knowledgeably enough to use the right nomenclature, to ask the right questions. So it was mainly, initially, it was listening to people who I thought who were patient and well-respected. And then after that, then I moved on to just reading books so I could move at my own pace and start defining some of these, to be quite frank, some of these, the language that I was completely unfamiliar with, that I'm still learning. So, yeah, that's how it started for me.
Yeah. And, I've been in rooms with you, clubs with you, and I've kind of seen your growth over time. Like, you've come in and you've asked a lot of really pertinent questions, and you asked questions from a perspective of someone that wasn't a quote unquote de facto Bitcoiner. And I always remember you talking about, the people that don't know the protocol, don't understand the technology, they tend to ask the right questions, because the people that think they're fancy or know everything about Bitcoin, they're not going to ask questions that the layman or the lay woman might ask. So I appreciate you, John, for kind of coming into those rooms. I think you even hosted a room on BBB in regards to some things with Naja and Lamar. And like, I've just been seeing you hustling and kind of getting your experience in as a Bitcoiner and trying to use this to better your community.
Yeah. I've been trying to connect in, thanks for that, number one. But, I've been trying to connect some important conversations. When I start thinking about money and, property, I think about the history of how that relates to me, money and property, how I even got to this space of thinking about money in a whole different realm. But I always think of money, and those hard conversations are all about, is money working for everyone? And I've done a lot of research and co-founded an organization that me and you spoke about for a long time. And just thinking about how banking, traditional finance, traditional banking has really been exclusive. And once I started understanding real estate and property, then I started really getting into some other things and understanding Bitcoin a little bit better. It just popped for me, and it made sense. But I had to always bring the conversations I was in back to, is this thing inclusive? Does it have the possibility to work for everyone? And so, I always try to bring it back home. Is it working for everyone? Does everyone have equal access? And trying to give people the knowledge that they need to make informed decisions, because everyone's going to come into this knowledge at a different time for different reasons. For me, it was like, I was just tired of always having people with their hands in my pockets, or feeling like everyone's always getting a cut off the top. And so at a certain point, I was just like, there's got to be something better. And so once I found that, I started understanding economics, because Bitcoin starts off as a curiosity, and then it rolls quickly into monetary policy and economics and all these things. And so, I was at the right time at the right place. I just started digging. And I'm still digging, still learning. Yeah.
Speaking of bringing it back home, I know that you're a New York City native, and my next question is what kind of inspired you to be one of the founders or co-founders of the Harlem Bitcoin meetup?
Yeah. Harlem Bitcoin community, or HarlemBitcoin.com is just a bunch of Bitcoin enthusiasts that came together with a particular set of desires to get done in New York. And we knew right away that if you could do it in New York, you could do it anywhere. If you could do it here, you could do it anywhere. So we have a particular set of challenges here in New York. We got this bit license. We have a particular set of laws that are kind of like not so Bitcoin friendly, not so proof of work friendly. And so, we thought it would be best to kind of be first to market. Not that we're the only meetup that's going on, but clearly, or certainly once you get into our meetups, you'll realize that we are Bitcoin only, Bitcoin specific only. We're not talking about crypto. We're not using any of this alternate language for alternate coins. But what inspired us was really understanding the very unique legislation that we have here in New York, and wanting to really address that, with some really deep civic engagement. And so that's kind of like my wheelhouse. And then, of course, just trying to be really true to Bitcoin only, but keeping it very simple. And so our co-founders are made up of working professionals, family people, software engineers, at all different levels. And so, but we are all very enthused about creating a Bitcoin Boulevard right in Harlem. And of course, the Harlem name is a signal. Of course, we want to do this thing. We're branching out to Queens next. We're going to move on to the other boroughs: Staten Island, Bronx, Manhattan, other parts of Manhattan, and Brooklyn, of course. But Harlem has always been the epicenter of entrepreneurship and business, and so of course that name was a signal as we wanted to put Bitcoin on the map in a real native, real natural way. And we met very organically online, and once people knew that they were speaking to New Yorkers right away. Of course, New Yorkers have this way of bonding, and we say, hey, let's meet up and really make this happen. So, we meet up at Safari Restaurant over on 116th Street over in Manhattan. And, one of our co-founders is the owner of that business. And, we get there, we want to create 116th Street as Bitcoin Boulevard, if you will. And, we're diving in with civic engagement. We're speaking with the community boards, the economic development and culture committees. We've done a presentation there. And so we're really trying to get very local, but very basic also. The magic always happens, at least for me, when I speak to people. Like my wheelhouse is particularly speaking to the newbies, people who know nothing about Bitcoin. I have a way of trying to, connect the dots with legacy systems and what people are familiar with, because everyone kind of has a relationship with money, but they don't understand money. And so you get people who are just coming into understanding money, and you try to help them understand this new type of money, this digital financial revolution. It's something that the story needs to be told. It needs to be relatable to someone that looks like you, who's been through similar situations and kind of can relate. And so the co-founders got together, and our inspiration was just to try to bring it to the people in a very natural, simple way. A lot of times people, in the Bitcoin space, as you know, people just try to impress each other, like with the language, and everyone just starts to talk more and more language, and it can get technical, and everyone can start trying to impress each other with how much more they know, and we want to stay away from that. So yeah, that's kind of what we wanted to do. Just give it to the basics and help people connect the old with the new, and let the magic happen with demonstrations and how the actual technology works. So yeah.
And what I love about your mission, Jon, is that, you wear so many different hats. And another thing that I really love is that you're very unapologetic about what you stand for and what you want to do to build your community up. Yeah. And that always makes me think about another business that you're a co-founder of, which is BlackBankUSA. And my question to you in regards to that company is, do you believe that Bitcoin will level the economic playing field for African Americans?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. I appreciate that. I got to be unapologetic, because finance, banking has never been equal. It's never been equal opportunity. So will it level the playing field? I believe it will. as people adopt, as of right now, Bitcoin is just a tool. In the right hands, it could do a lot. But it just existing, it's not going to do anything for the person who doesn't know how to leverage it, just like any other financial tool. So, BlackBankUSA came into existence in 2016, right during a series of very deadly police shootings in the Black community. And just like any other time when these type of things happen, these type of turmoils happen, people want to do something. People want to react. They want to do something. And so, just like Dr. King did on April 3rd, 1968, he called for people, when he was down in Tennessee, he called for people to move their money out of the downtown bank into the tri-state bank. This was one of his last speeches. The very next day, Dr. King was assassinated on April 4th, 1968. But that clarion call Dr. King was speaking to was asking people to exercise their power of choice to an alternative. And that alternative were Black banks who were serving them better. Black banks who were had products and economic and financial tools that could better serve the Black community. And for example, not sure how much of your audience knows, but I'm not sure how much anyone knows, because these are the things that we're not taught in school. My uncle, coming out of the Vietnam War, had the means, but wasn't allowed to have or capable to get a federally insured home loan where he can acquire a single family home. And single family home ownership, or home ownership overall, has been one of the ways for people to establish generational wealth. And so being able to have that generational, that tool, that home ownership, has been a way to bequeath wealth down to your family. It's been a way to borrow or build equity and then borrow against it to send your kids to school and so forth and so on. And so Bitcoin is an alternative, just like building on that concept of exploring an alternative. Bitcoin is an alternative to an exclusive economy that has been working for some, but not for all. And so we have to explore it. We have to understand it. Money is becoming more and more digital. We all know this. And so we have to understand how this thing is working and understand that Bitcoin, people have the power to now exercise their power of choice to have something different that could work, that cannot be taken away from you. It cannot be seized. And so absolutely, I think, to answer your question directly, Bitcoin can be a tool to level the economic playing field and steady the goalpost for Black people, if knowing how to use it. And, Isaiah Jackson, co-founder of the BBB, wrote a book called Bitcoin in Black America, which I've read. It's a phenomenal book. And I like it because, in each book I've read has a different niche. This book has case and point, use case and scenario. Do this and we could do this. Black folks, you don't have to do this anymore. You could do this. In this scenario, you could do this. And it's a call and answer to different scenarios that Black people have faced throughout history. And I think it provides an excellent roadmap to really getting people economically founded, really getting Black people economically founded and get their goalposts finally steadied in a way that people can have something to shoot for, and also to get their behavior to change. So yes, I think Bitcoin is absolutely a tool that Black folks should be using, should be exploring and understanding, because it's not the money of tomorrow. Bitcoin is the money of today. It's happening. You got two countries right now, the CAR, the Central African Republic, and you have, of course, El Salvador, who has adopted this. There's a reason. This is not funny money. This is not internet toy money. This is something that's real, that's being leveraged and used for money, for freedom money, all across the world, right here, right now. So I absolutely, Black people need to use this thing and understand it for sure.
I write a lot of pieces in regards to this topic, in regards to, social injustice and kind of racism and segregation. And, people need to really learn their history, and history is super important. When you talk about history, you do 1862, the Homestead Act was passed, and that was an act that allowed, white Europeans that were in America to get free parcels of land for cheap. You know what I mean? And slavery wasn't abolished to 1865. So you're talking about a 3-year gap that someone had a head start on us.
Millions of acres of land were given away. Yeah. I don't want to cut you. I love talking about this because you're not going to learn this in traditional history classes. You have to dig this up. Millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest were being given away. to the European immigrants. But for the African who was brought here and worked for 244 years against their own will, were given nothing. So it's not like there wasn't a willingness to give. There just wasn't a willingness to give to our African peasants and foundational Black Americans. There was no willingness to give. And so how does that play out? What are the legacy effects of that? And so I'm going to keep driving that home. Bitcoin is a tool that could be used to set people free. It's an all-inclusive tool. And you cannot talk about the freedom that Bitcoin provides without talking about the lack thereof freedom that so many have not had because of the traditional legacy financial systems that this United States of America has purposely used to keep certain people excluded. And so we have to talk about the legacy effects of that, so that people could be truly free and not wind up repeating some of the things. But this is not going to happen overnight, as they say. But I believe that the universe has a moral curve and it's bending towards justice. And Bitcoin is definitely part of that.
Exactly. And, people need to be informed. And me as a writer, that's my role, is to inform people. Like, this is all public knowledge that's out there for people to grab if they want to pay attention to it and really learn their history. Yeah. So, I appreciate that, John, that, you've been super unapologetic and you always tie in Bitcoin as freedom money. You tie in Bitcoin as using this as leverage for disenfranchised communities to kind of get that sovereign wealth and get that generational wealth. So it's super important.
Yeah, it is. It's important to talk about these things. People have to know their history, but people get uncomfortable with that, and so you're in a lot of popular spaces sometimes, and people get uncomfortable with that. Oh, why can't we just talk about going forward? Well, the mere fact that you don't want to talk about how we got here says a lot about wanting to commit to a process of truth and then reconciling. And people love to talk about the reconciliation, but they don't want to talk about the truth or the need for reconciliation. And so it's important. It's important because we want to uplift everyone. And, just not to harp on it, but anytime you uplift the people who are economically struggling the most, you uplift them. You uplift people who have been pressed the most. You can look at different pieces of legislation here and there. People level up. Everyone levels up on top. That could be up for debate, but there is no doubt that Bitcoin allows, from a business perspective, from a personal perspective, it allows people to compete for businesses to compete for the user experience. Businesses now have to do a little bit different because money is so decentralized now. And so now we got to build tools and build businesses around really trying to compete for that user experience. And so Bitcoin does a lot for humanity, and I wish people would understand it for that. And all it takes is just do a little bit of research. It doesn't kind of be a whole lot. Just got to know a little bit of history and study money, and people will get there.
There's a phrase that you always used to say in the clubhouse rooms and on the Twitter spaces, which was, if you want to be a mouthpiece for Bitcoin, you have to be responsible, profound, and be held accountable. So I always think about that. And I thought about that when I wrote my book. And my question to you is that, do you feel that Bitcoin maximalism is affecting Bitcoin adoption?
Yeah. So, just first off, man, I appreciate your writing is very helpful. To be able to make things very plain. Your style is not just eloquent, but it just kind of breaks things down in a digestible format for people to get in and get out and get it. And so I really can appreciate the way how you articulate your thoughts through words. So thank you. Your books are amazing. Your writing's amazing. But stacking stacks being the new black, and to your point, to your question, I think people are going to get it in time, it's going to take some time, but I think people will get there. Your question is for me. It's like, will people get it? I think they will, but I think your question is a good one. People are going to have to do their own research, like how we always say, and jump in and really try to grasp what's really going on. So, it's important that people really have to really get to a point where they understand what's really going on. But people in the Bitcoin space who are like maximalists, you know, they come with this kind of level of toxicity. I think it doesn't really do any good. People have different levels of understanding. People are going to adopt at different times. And so, you know, I'm a freedom maximalist. I like to say, you know, whatever you want to do is what you want to do. If you want to learn to mine by mining alternate coins, go ahead. That may be a good lesson for you. That may be a good technical lesson for you to, you know, learn more about Bitcoin, because, you know, these ASIC miners are crazy expensive. So if you want to get into altcoin mining, that's fine. I'm open to that. You know, I'm brave enough to say that. You know, it doesn't make me an altcoiner. It makes me a freedom maximalist. Like, hey, you do what you want to do that will get you where you need to be. But Bitcoin, understanding Bitcoin, if you're doing these things without understanding what Bitcoin is, I think that's, to be quite honest, I think that's dangerous, right? If you understand Bitcoin very well and you're mining these altcoins so you could buy Bitcoin, that's different. And so this maximalism name that the Bitcoin community has adopted and kind of hung on to, I think it was, first of all, it's a term that was coined by Vitalik as an epithet. It wasn't meant as a term of endearment. You know, people adopt it because, you know, it makes them feel good when they could shut other people out. And like I said, sometimes you get into these rooms and it's just like verbal masturbation. Like people are just trying to prove how much more intelligent they are to the next person. And it's just like, this is not even helpful. But it is what it is. I think people who were toxic before they found Bitcoin are going to use Bitcoin as a mask to continue their toxicity. It's not going to heal them anyway. It's just going to be that mask for them in whatever that they were in before. So maximalism, the way how I see it, I think it's going to hurt a lot of people because it's going to put a lot of people off. But again, you know, sometimes we're in these either clubhouse rooms or these Twitter spaces, which I've backed away from a lot significantly over the last couple of months. And I'm just start doing like one-on-one talking to people, or doing live meetups where I'm talking to live people, because these silos can become just that. You know, they can become echo chambers of people trying to impress each other. And it's not the reality. It's like at a certain point, like I've been speaking with people in Foundry, policymakers in Foundry, and these people are doing tremendous work to support this industry, you know, the mining industry. But at some point, you have to meet real. We got to get back to speaking with real people, meeting up and getting, as they say, boots on the ground, and showing up to support, you know, local legislators and policymakers who are coming up with good legislation to push proof of work mining through, where we could really have really good conversation, meaningful, honest conversations about the topic of energy and sustainable energy in the proof of work mining industry, you know, and so you know, you got to transition from that virtual space and into a real space. And so this is what HarlemBitcoin.com does. It provides a space for real people who want to become civically engaged to do that. And you know, there's no tolerance for that Bitcoin maximalism that we find in a lot of these spaces where you're speaking to memes. And you know, I've gotten into some really unfavorable back and forth with memes, and I said, you know, what am I doing? I'm talking to a voice who's hiding behind a meme. Like, these are not even real people, you know, and they tout that they want to be synonymous, but I doubt that they would act this way and project this way face to face, or be able to survive, you know, in their fiat mining professions. You know, they wouldn't act this way. And so you know, I say all that to say that I've moved away from the you know, the Bitcoin maximalism spaces that, where, to be quite honest, I did learn some things, but one thing I did learn is not to become so siloed and echo chambered, where people are just continually, you know, blowing smoke at each other. I have to get down and back to this. Well, I think it's all ministry, where you're speaking to people and helping people. My purpose is to give good information to people, to learn as much as I can and spread this knowledge. And it's working. And even if you get one or two people who have that wow moment when you show them how to send money from one wallet to another, they don't need to know about cryptography and proof of work mining and all of this. But when they realize that they could own something that actually is valuable, They could send it back home if they need to remit a payment, or they could truly be banked in a area that is underbanked. This means something because people feel the press of the economic system. They feel it. They don't know what it is or how it happens, but they feel it. And when you show them a different way, out of the kindness of your own heart, with no incentive for return, that means something, and people feel that. So, yeah.
100%. And, you know, with the maximalism thing, for me, it's weird. Like, it's kind of 50-50 for me because I understand Bitcoin. I understand the importance of it.
Yeah.
And, you know, you see people evangelizing for Bitcoin. But, you know, there was a saying that Steve Harvey said where he said that money doesn't change you. It just makes you more of who you already are. So it's like when you think about Bitcoin, you think about people that got into the space early, 2009, 2010, they kind of have this like conviction where they feel like they have a one-up on the rest of society because they got in early. And I just think that it just amplifies who they already were. And I think that you have to take bits and pieces and do your own research. Like for me, a lot of those rooms I can't really handle. That's why I kind of have this podcast, because I'm trying to source real, authentic, everyday people that will show who they are and kind of push to build the community of Bitcoin. So, you know, I appreciate what you're doing. And, you know, spaces aren't for everybody. You know, like I said, there's tons of other ways to learn about Bitcoin. Like you can read my writings. You don't have to interact with anyone. You can look at YouTube videos. You can listen to podcasts. So, you know, don't get too taken aback, people, by Bitcoin maximalism, because that's not the only thing out there that, you know, is in the Bitcoin ecosystem.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you said. And, you know, hate to sound like an echo chamber, but yeah, there's tons of resources out there. And, you know, these Twitter spaces, people don't hang, believe it or not, people, Twitter space is not for everyone. You know, Clubhouse is not for everyone. People don't learn that way. People don't want to hang out and drop in live audio conversations. People want to meet people. People want to go to a coffee shop. People want to go to a little bit of restaurant, hang out. People want to go and interact with people. People want to work out and go to the park, Central Park, or you know, there's plenty of different ways to slip in. That's why when I speak to people, you know, to your point, Dado, you know, you got to meet people like where they are, you know, and sometimes I always like to say, you know, if I'm hosting a conversation, I say, hey, listen, you know, where you have a run club, or you got a cycling club, where you have any type of club, a book club, talk about Bitcoin. See how you could wind that in. If you have a bridge club, you know, I don't know, some type of civic association. These are some of the greatest areas to discuss Bitcoin, because people will have a curiosity. And people, like I said, everyone has a relationship with money, but do they really understand how it works? And once you start examining Bitcoin in a real healthy way, magic happens. People start saying, you know, I don't like the fact that there's so much inflation. I don't like the fact that I've worked 20 years at my profession. I have a pension now, and I know 10 years from now, inflation is going to eat up my spending power. Oh, yeah, because everyone can feel that. But how do you combat that? How do you hedge against that? Do you own enough real estate? Do you own enough property? And Black folks understand these things, because there's a ton of very intelligent Black folks out there who have done very well for themselves. Not all Black communities poor and impoverished and living in the projects and hurting. No. So this maximalism, this toxicity, this, you know, I know more than you type of, you know, behavior or position, really, it speaks to who the person is. And just, you know, I love that quote by Steve Harvey. It's like money just it just amplifies exactly what you already were. And so, you know, I'm trying to do this work. You know, we try to partner with good people, try to match energy, right, with people who, you know, who got similar energy, and try to get this good stuff out there to people. If I have something really good, I want to share it with everyone, you know. So this is the mission, man. Just try to get it out there, get people to use it, get people to understand it, get people to start businesses, get younger people. Part of the mission of Harlem Bitcoin is civic engagement and getting younger people to really not only just be their own bank, but understand money better and get out there, start a little business. Now you can really start a little lemonade stand or an icy cart and really be able to get money and use it and store it and have real value. So amazing. Cash App is doing 13 up now. Cash App is actually banking people where you can have a debit card. This is tremendous. You had the Bitcoin Classic, Brother Yusef just pulled off the Bitcoin Classic up here at the Mecca, which is, of course, Rucker Park up in Harlem. Tremendous 2-day basketball tournament. where he gave away over $20,000 in Bitcoin. And so, but we had in between at the halftime, we actually spoke about Bitcoin to help educate people. And you had Jump Out Girls there. You had Lamar was there. Harlem Bitcoin was there. And so we're out there trying to leverage the message of Bitcoin, economic empowerment, cooperative wealth. We're trying to leverage that. BlackBankUSA was the first initiative out of larger corporation auspices, Cowrie. The Cowrie initiative stands for Cooperative Wealth Reinvestment and Empowerment. And that's our 501c3. But BlackBankUSA, of course, was just the first initiative to show people what that's about. So, I've been kind of, chopping it up, this money and finance situation for a long time. And people have always been using their money as a tool to take control of their environment and take control of their world, if you will. And so Black people need to understand this. And, there are people that are doing it. And Brother Yusef and the Bitcoin Classic, it's being done in a very powerful way. So just happy to be a part of these movements. And yeah, man, it's moving. New York City, if we could do it here, we could do it anywhere. So we're trying to blow it up and really make it happen here in the Northeast and particularly New York City. So stay tuned, man. We got a lot coming down the road, my brother. I'm happy to share it.
My last question is, speaking about cooperative economics, speaking about banking, my question to you is that what advice do you have for African Americans about banking in the future?
Yeah. Oh, man. Man, that's a great question for many reasons, because banking is in this transitional area. And Sister Naja Roberts doing the Digital Financial Revolution tour over 41 cities. Man, banking in the future is going to be completely transformed. And I would say banking, traditional banks, legacy payment rails, they're on the losing end right now. And power really wants to concede power. My advice is to learn as much as you can about money. Teach your children about money. Black folks, change your behavior. Everyone change your behavior. Particularly, I'm speaking to Black people because we've had a particular relationship with money, in acquiring money. And, I'm not here to give a lesson. And it's not incumbent upon Black folks to teach the world about the particular uniqueness of the Black people's experiences, particularly with money. But when I speak to empower the population of people who I think I can have most influence over, and as people that look like me, who've had similar experiences and are culturally similar. And so my message to Black people is start understanding money a little bit better. Start understanding and changing your behavior, changing your time preference. Look down towards the future a lot more. Buy assets, don't buy liabilities. Do we really need all those things that we're spending our money on? Try to unlearn and relearn money. Stop saying to yourself, well, I work hard, I'm going to spend it now. What about your family going down the line? What about your children? I often think about, what if I was given a home where I didn't have to pay a mortgage, a multi-family living space? I'd be set for life. My wife tried to buy a building 2 years ago. Part of what I love about finding property to buy is that it's hunting down the owners. And I hunted down, if you will, this owner, and she was kind. This bicycle shop, commercial space, it's a mixed use commercial space with apartments and above. And her grandfather aired this thing down to her father, and her father, of course, gave it to her. The building is paid for. The commercial space, which is local in my area here, is old bike shop in the area here in Southeast Queens. And it's been vacant for 5, 6, maybe probably close to 10 years. And I was asking her, do you want to sell it? She was like, no, why would I sell it? My tenants are great. They pay me every month. And why would I sell it? And I said, you know what? I don't blame you. I wouldn't sell it either. And so what if I was able to possess this type of asset where now I have this stability and pass that on to my children? What type of financial position would they be in if they were born into that type of scenario? Very different, very different. The outlook would be, the projection would be a lot different. And so we have to learn about what property is, what ownership is, but we have to commit, like I said before, to a process of truth and reconciliation, ownership of property. If you want to really get into it, I don't want to get too deep into the woods here, but anyone who knows about heirs' rights and how property was literally taken away from Black people, from foundational Black Americans. This is a story that's kind of untold. And so my message as far as the banking and behavior and finance to Black people is know your history, change your behavior, and start buying some assets. Start buying some things that will appreciate in value, buy real estate, buy land, buy things that are truly scarce. Even gold. If you want to be a gold bug, be a gold bug. Not to wear gold, but to understand what that thing is and how it's truly scarce. And so, I hope this message reaches far and wide in the Black community, that, we need to change our behaviors and really kind of dig down and see what is truly valuable, not clothes, not these things that the media tells us that is valuable, but things that are scarce. And the Creator only created a certain amount of land. There's only but so much of it. So buy some land, buy some property, buy open land, vacant land, and build on it. Learn to farm, learn to grow your food. But particularly in the banking space, learn about money, learn the history, and start understanding how digital money is working is my recommendation for Black folks, because we're always seem to be last at the table when food is being served. So, that's my message.
Most definitely. And, I'll put in a last piece in there where it's like, invest in some Bitcoin because you're dealing with something that has absolute scarcity. And the barrier of entry is so low when you think about, the single family homes going for 40% higher than they did 10 years ago. A lot of Black folk don't have the capital to buy into getting their first home. But, you can start with Bitcoin for $1 on Cash App. That's like owning a piece of digital real estate. That's like owning a piece of digital land per se. So, everything that you're doing, Jon, is correct, absolute, and truthful. And that's why I support everything that you do. That's why I support the Harlem Bitcoin Community, BlackBankUSA, all these things. We've worked together a numerous amount of times, and I'm just super grateful to have you on the Bitcoin Source. My last shout out and my last piece on this is, can you give the the audience any way for people to get in contact with you and to support what you have going on?
Thank you for that. You can get in contact with me, of course, by watching the Bitcoin Source. Checking out my man Dadu. He has great content, and hopefully this will come out soon, and you can find us here. But go to bankblackusa.org. You can find the work that we've been doing there. Go to the you can find me on Twitter at Jon Logan, spelled backwards. That's NAGOL NOJ. Jon Logan, spelled backwards. So yeah, find me on Twitter. But of course, I'm here and there. You can find us at harlembitcoin.com. And we do meetups all over New York City. And find me there. And I'll be around. Hopefully you can have me back sometime. We can have some more conversations, bro. Love it. Love what you're doing, brother. Thank you.
Once again, Jon, thank you for being on the Bitcoin Source. Have a good one.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
Peace.
Thanks.